In short, it helps businesses use AI safely and effectively while avoiding legal and reputational harm.
Yeah, exactly. It's like spending money so you don't have to spend more money later, which
Exactly,
I'm sure a lot
exactly.
of businesses wish that they'd go back in time when something goes wrong and be like, oh, yeah, I
I
wish
wish
I
I
would
would
have
have
fixed that
spent that.
earlier. Do you understand what AI governance and compliance mean for your business? Are you confident in your company in responsibly managing AI risk and regulatory expectations? Today, I'm joined by Trina Huntsman from ERP Suites to clarify AI governance and compliance, exploring their importance, implementation strategies, and practical examples to keep your business secure and trustworthy. Stay tuned. By the end of this episode, you'll have a clear roadmap for responsibly integrating AI into your organization. Welcome back to Not Your Grandpa's JD Edwards, the podcast designed to help businesses innovate responsibly. I'm Nate Bushfield, and today we're breaking down AI governance and compliance. Joining us is Trina Huntsman, an audit and compliance analyst at ERP Suites. Trina, it's great to have you here. Could you briefly introduce yourself and your expertise in governance and compliance?
Absolutely. So I've been in the audit and compliance field going on about 4 years. I have my certification as an internal audit practitioner, and I'm working on getting my CIA, which is the Certified Internal Auditor certification next year.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of certifications out there, especially that ERP Suites has been rolling out to us. So it's really cool that, I mean, I know a lot of us have different certifications and stuff, but I honestly haven't really heard of those. So that's it's really cool. Maybe I'll look
Yeah.
into them. But we might as well get into the brunt of why we're here talking today. So let's start off with an easy one. What is AI governance and why is it critical for businesses today?
So AI governance, it's one of those, it's so hard for everybody to really kind of get a handle on what everything means. So Um, AI governance is the framework of policies and procedures that ensure AI systems are used responsibly, ethically, and in alignment with business goals and societal expectations. So that encompasses strategic oversight, risk management, accountability structures, regulatory compliance, let's see, transparency, and I would say life cycle management, just, to make sure you're staying up to date on the latest AI.
Yeah, of
And
course.
why it's critical for businesses, um, I feel it really builds trust with customers, stakeholders. It reduces risks and ensures legal compliance, supports ethical AI use, and enables innovation through structured oversight. In short, it helps businesses use AI safely and effectively while avoiding legal and reputational harm.
Yeah, exactly. It's like spending money so you don't have to spend more money later, which
Exactly,
I'm sure a lot
exactly.
of businesses wish that they'd go back in time when something goes wrong and be like, oh, yeah,
I
I wish
wish
I
I
would
would
have
have
fixed
spent
that
that.
early. Yeah, why didn't
Exactly.
I just hire somebody to do this for us in the beginning instead of worrying about it after? But
Yeah, legal
it's
fees
the
are much
simple
more
things.
expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, lawyers have to be paid too, but hopefully not by us, that'll get
Yes,
paid by somebody
exactly.
else.
Exactly.
How would you clearly define compliance in the context of AI, and why should companies prioritize it?
So AI compliance ensures that development, deployment, and use of AI systems meet applicable laws and regulations, hits industry standards and internal policies related to ethics, privacy, transparency, safety, fairness. So it would include adhering to the laws like HIPAA, for example, preventing bias or discrimination, ensuring explainability and auditability, following documented risks and governance process. All of these things are very important, and AI compliance ensures AI systems operate within legal and ethical boundaries, helping companies, coming back to that money, avoid penalties, gain trust, and use AI safely at scale.
Exactly. And especially with all the different AIs that are out there right now. I mean, there are the big fish out there with the bigger companies like ChatGPTs and that type of stuff. But there are the smaller ones out there that maybe they're just clickbait. Maybe they're just there trying to make money in the space before they do get caught. And then they just file for bankruptcy and they're gone forever. Then they come back under a new name.
Yep.
We don't need that anymore, you know?
No.
We have these bigger fish that really are developing an ethical AI solution. I know ERP Suites is doing this as well, which is great in terms of where AI is going. That we already have
Absolutely.
these laws in place, so we don't have something like iRobot, which I've mentioned on the podcast before. It still freaks me out, but AI is good for us for now. So excited about the
Absolutely.
future and glad that we actually have governance and laws behind it
Yes.
to make sure that this is an ethical movement in the future. But could you explain the key differences and maybe even the similarities between governance and compliance? I know they're very similar, but where are the differences there?
Absolutely. So I found or came up with another simple analogy. I know last time I used, the framework of a house to kind of describe it. And I came up with another one. Think of governance as the navigation system. It sets the course and the rules of the road, and compliance is the speedometer and the legal checklist. It ensures you're not breaking any of the laws while driving. So that kind of gives a more defined picture of just in general, because they are used almost interchangeably and they really can't be. I know that sounds funny, but I'm an auditor. That's what I do. So, a governance is strategic, it defines how AI should be used, and compliance is legal, ensures that AI must follow the rules. So, another example is governance is internally driven by leadership and ethics, compliance is externally driven by laws and regulations.
Okay,
Um,
so yeah, that's very
yeah,
interesting. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I mean,
no,
if you have more to add to it, go ahead, seriously.
no. So governance covers a broader scope, risks, ethics, roles. Compliance is narrower and rule focused. So that's like the key differences, but they can be similar too. So both manage risk tied to AI, both rely on policies and controls, both aim to enforce accountability and transparency. Both are critical to build trust and avoid costly failures. Coming back to that big money.
Mhm. It's all about money in the space these days. Then again, it always is. We're companies. We're trying to make money. We're not trying to go into the red. But it is interesting because, yeah, I never really thought, yeah, like governance. When I think governance, I think of an actual government, like that
Hmm.
is obviously very similar. And it's interesting that you bring up like it's more internal. You have your internal government, kind of like a states versus federal.
Yep,
Of states, you truly make the laws, you have to follow these laws in your state. Then federal is more of a here are the guidelines that you have to follow. And if you do
exactly.
break these rules, bad things can happen to you. So so
100%.
I did like your metaphor though. It was a little bit better of a speedometer and versus the actual rules and laws of the road. So I do enjoy that. But all right, let me switch topics a little bit. How can companies practically start implementing governance and compliance frameworks for their AI initiatives?
So, my first suggestion would be to take a phased and structured approach that aligns with their business risk profile and regulatory environment. So, all companies are different. Everybody's doing something different. So, doing it in a phased manner is so important and not expecting to be able to get it all done at once. So that is my number one recommendation, just based on your company, and they're all different. So
Yeah, exactly. You got to build from the ground up, focus internally, see where this will really lead for your company. Everybody's different, and that's a great way to put it because you can utilize AI in a number of different ways. You can do it in document understanding, you can do it in real looking at more sales order or even financial opportunities in the future. There are many different ways that you can utilize AI. So it really does come down to what does your company need from it?
Hmm.
What are you looking for? What are you trying to build for? So yeah, your phased approach. You start with a quick win, and then you move further and longer or farther up the line.
Yeah,
But yeah, again, you got to start somewhere. Might as well start with
absolutely.
the simplest thing, quick win, so that it can work, and then get excited about the future. But what specific areas should businesses address when first developing AI compliance strategies?
So I know that you were wanting, when we're talking about the phased approach. So instead of actually going low, they should begin with the high impact areas. So high risk, most likely to face legal and ethical or reputational scrutiny. So number one is data privacy and protection. You got to make sure you are safe and you need to make sure your customers are safe. And you need to have policies and training in place to teach everybody, hey, you can't just put this on the internet. If you're not willing to tell it to a stranger on the middle of the road, then you shouldn't be telling anybody. Um, so another area would be making sure bias and fairness, being transparent, being able to explain it, regulatory mapping and legal alignment, human oversight, also very important, and accountability, making sure that there is someone over AI that is accountable. Um, Having security and model integrity and documentation and auditability. My personal favorites. So,
Yeah, we actually had Brian Connor on the podcast a few episodes ago. I don't know if you caught that one, but he does a great deep dive on the security behind AI and what that really means, what that should look like in terms of trainings, but also in terms of actual structure. So if
mhm.
you haven't checked that out for our viewers out there, make sure to check it out because it's a little bit of a deeper dive than what we will get to in this episode. But we can move on a little bit too. Why is training and human verification so important in an AI governance context?
So if you don't mind me being direct, it really doesn't make any sense if you do all this work and have all of the rules and regulations up for your company, but you don't tell anybody. If you don't give them the rules, they don't know what to follow. So some people don't necessarily know, hey, I shouldn't put that information in there. Or, when you're getting in there, everything can be seen and you have to treat it as such. And not everybody has that realization. And that's why we have the training. And that's why, we move forward with things like that. And as far as it's kindly referred to in my area as the human in the loop, as the human verification. It prevents harm from automated errors, maintains accountability, adds context and judgment, enables continuous oversight, which is a big one because AI is always changing. We don't need an iRobot situation.
So
So
true.
human verification acts as a guardrail that keeps automation aligned with human values, legal standards, and organizational trust.
Exactly. And we don't need another Terminator either. We
There you
don't
go.
need that. But yeah,
Exactly.
But yeah, having a human in the loop and the training that comes with it, you would think that it's like, yeah, obviously, you should let your people know these rules. You should let them know. But the thing about the AI, it learns from us as much as we learn from it. So
Exactly.
if you give it data, if you give it something to learn, to absorb, it's going to. So at the end of the day, you have to be careful with it. It's like that one person in school that it's just the gossip person, like you tell them
Hmm.
one thing, all of a sudden the entire school knows.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Exactly.
good, yeah, I know. I mean, that's good old high school days. That's a high school drama. That's basically what AI is. It will tell your secrets because it doesn't know that it's important. So
Well,
without the training and telling people that this is important data, you should not be sharing this. You might have it slip through the cracks. You might have that AI redistribute that in some way, shape, or form to maybe people that shouldn't have it. Um,
exactly. Well,
but
and
yeah,
it has to be taught somewhere. So you never know who the teacher is. And
Exactly.
so that's also why you need to be very careful.
Yeah, I wish some of those gossip people back in high school, college, I wish they had better teachers. Let's just put it
Exactly.
that way. But enough about drama, I guess. Can you share examples of companies that successfully implement AI governance and compliance?
Absolutely. So this one we have to be a little bit careful about. So easily recognizable ones would be Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, all have successfully implemented AI governance and compliance.
Yeah. And those are the biggest fish out there. So obviously they're going to have a lot of eyes on them,
Hmm.
and people are going to be hoping that they don't follow this. But that's
Yep.
why it probably took so long because AI was being used 10, 15 years ago at this
It
point.
was actually a lot longer than that.
Yeah,
It was in
exactly.
the 50s
Yeah.
is when it was first talked about and first coined.
See, that's creepy to me. But they've had this for so long,
Yeah.
and there was just no use by a normal person. It was all government people, it was the higher ups, it was the certain people that were actually working on it, the developers, that type of stuff. And obviously, they've had to jump through a lot of hoops to get it to where it is now.
Oh yeah.
But that was a lot of and guess and check, some say, or trial and error is another way of
Mhm.
saying it. And you really did have to like this is basically like building a brain
Oh yeah.
and teaching a child what's right and what's wrong.
Hmm.
Um, and I hate to keep bringing up the iRobot thing or the Terminator, but that's basically what iRobot was all about. It was about a bunch of these children, basically, of AI robots that were not sure what was right and wrong,
Yeah.
of trying to figure that out. So, yeah, throughout time, it took them a while. Don't get me wrong. It took them a long time to figure out the rights and the wrongs, but they finally got there.
Hmm.
Um, but we can switch to a little bit more of ERP Suites related stuff. But how does ERP
Absolutely.
Suites manage governance and compliance internally? And mainly, what lessons can other companies learn from our approach?
So we are being proactive, obviously. One of the ways is by working with our vendors and programming certain AI functions ourselves with them. So we're not just letting someone else do it. We're very involved. We're making sure that it is done right. We're also using AI systems for networks and email analysis that don't feed into any large language models. So we're very careful about what is shared and even, depending on it's not in a big AI. So we also do not allow the use of AI with any company specific or personal identifying information. That is a big one.
Yeah.
And we have made it very clear. I want to say even our monthly training has included some of that because you just have to be so careful.
Exactly. And we have monthly trainings. We make sure that everybody is on the same page about AI. Even our sales team, they go through trainings that we talk about AI, talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
what we can actually utilize with it and what we should probably keep secret or keep away from an AI structure, which is hilarious to me because I came from the sales team. I mean, AI was not exactly something that anyone utilized until,
Hmm.
I don't know, like a year ago now. And
Yeah.
now it is such a big part of how we're shifting things, how we're learning, how like we use it for AI role plays
Oh, yeah.
of yeah. And that specifically we have to be really careful of. We can't give it a name. We can't give them a specific company that they would be. It's all general, it's all very careful how we utilize
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Which again, like never really think about, security is something that a lot of people are just used to with privacy, with like the iPhones and everything. There's a certain level of privacy that you have to have, but with AI, you're not really sure how far that goes because
Exactly.
there isn't really a terms and conditions that come with a lot of it. Um,
Exactly.
don't know if I've ever truly read a terms and conditions, but you should definitely do it. Probably. I don't know. I don't know what's
Oh,
in there.
absolutely. And actually, if you go back to the AI week presentation that I did, I actually specifically had asked the AIs, what their governance and compliance was. And it was really cool to see because that is something that they openly shared and that you could see some of the differences, but it was all very similar. And that was encouraging because they were things that were important, like having a human in the loop. And I mean, yes, they're trying to keep data private, but we've had a lot of instances where that's not necessarily what's happening.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it really depends. But like I said, if you were a part of the AI week stuff, you'd be able to reference that pretty quick.
Yeah,
Or just
exactly.
ask
And
AI yourself. That's also an option.
yeah, which is really cool. Like obviously it's AI, you'd think that they would have that ready and available anyways, but it's not something I have ever thought of truly asking because
Hmm.
I put blind faith into things, which I really shouldn't do. I definitely shouldn't do.
I think
But
everybody
we're
does
learning. Yeah,
that.
exactly. Everyone does to a certain level. So we're learning, adapting, growing, trying to be better at that. But what are some common mistakes businesses make when handling AI compliance, and how could these be avoided?
So number one that comes to my mind is don't treat AI compliance as an afterthought. Don't let it be the last thing you think about when you're having to call your lawyer because, somebody did not do something correctly and something got shared that shouldn't have been. Ignoring data and privacy laws, also a really big one. Overlooking model bias and fairness. And, today's day and age, we have to be careful with that. Um, no defined accountability, so not having that person over your AI, coming up with policies and training. If you don't have somebody holding to be held accountable, then yeah, you're kind of, that's not a good place to be. Poor documentation and lack of ongoing monitoring because, it's just that much easier to let it slide and then you end up in a bad spot. So those are
Yeah,
those are some of the high hitters for me.
exactly. Be proactive. Get out in
Mhm.
front of it. You don't want to be having that conversation with a lawyer saying, "Hey, you know this AI thing that everyone's scared about it sharing their data? Yeah, we did that. Sorry, it's on us." They might have a good defense for it now because it's probably happened a bunch, but that's not something
Mhm.
to rely on.
Yeah, let's not
You
find
know,
out firsthand.
yeah, exactly. Let's stay away from that as much as we possibly can. Uh, it's one of the scariest things is AI. And yes, it's more of a common thing these days. So people are very used to it and used to the idea of it. But at the end of the day, if you're building your own, you have to make sure you're following the government. Do you see that lightning? The
Yeah.
governance and the compliance of it. Gosh, it's storming outside. But yes, anyways, if today's conversation has highlighted areas where your company needs stronger AI governance and compliance, ERP Suites can help. Connect with Trina and the ERP Suites team at erpsuites.com. The link is in the description below. We'll have a contact us page ready for you to reach out to us. But that's a wrap. I know, so heartbreaking that it is over, but thank you for joining us on Not Your Grandpa's JD Edwards. This is our 12th episode, I believe, but thank you, Trina. Seriously, this is great to have you out here for your valuable insights into AI governance and compliance. But if this conversation was beneficial, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, a review, and mostly share it with your colleagues. Until next time, ensure compliance, enhance governance, and keep innovating responsibly. Catch you later.